Alright, I'm going to show you how to monitor for WireGuard key compromise with Pro Custodibus. First, I'm going to show you how to use the Pro Custodibus dashboard to manually check for suspicious activity. Then I'm going to give you a quick tour of the various automated alerts that Pro Custodibus will generate for you. So to start off, here we are looking at the Pro Custodibus dashboard for an example company. Now this first chart, endpoints connected to host, displays how many remote endpoints are actively connected to each WireGuard host that you're monitoring. So if you have a particular host that is rarely used and you see that it suddenly has a spike of endpoints connected to it, that could indicate that one of the keys used to connect to the host has been compromised and someone is connected to the host who shouldn't be. Now in this example, let's go back and look historically for the past 90 days and see if we see any unusual spikes of activity. Now I don't see anything here, but if we do see something that we're interested in, we can click on the host to drill in and get more detail. But for now, let's go back to the dashboard and look at this second chart. Now the second chart, bytes sent and received by peer. That displays how much data has been transferred by each remote peer of the host that you're monitoring. So keep in mind that each WireGuard peer is identified by a unique key pair. So each WireGuard peer represents a unique identity. In many cases, that will be an individual user or a user's device, like Alice's laptop, Alice's phone, Bob's workstation, Claire's workstation. So this chart can show you if a particular user has been transferring a lot more data than usual, which can be an indicator that your key or that their key has been compromised and is being used by someone else for some unauthorized activity. So in this example, we see that this WireGuard identity for Alice's laptop has an unusual amount of activity, unusual amount of data being transferred right now. So let's go and click on that identity and we can get some more information about how that identity is being used. But before we go any further down this road, let's go back to the dashboard and look at this third chart, IP addresses used by peer. Now this chart displays how many individual IP addresses have been used by each of these remote peers. And usually when you're looking at this minute by minute view, you can see that each peer is being observed using only one IP address. However, you may see some peers, like right here, where we've this peer, Alice's laptop, has recently been observed using two different IP addresses. And sometimes what that can mean is simply that this remote peer is connected to two different monitored hosts, one external and one internal, like on the same LAN. And so the external host will see this remote peer, Alice's laptop, connected from the external IP address of Alice's laptop, whereas the internal host on the same LAN as Alice's laptop will see it connected from Alice's laptop's internal IP address. So that's how we may see these two different IP addresses in a legitimate fashion. But it can also mean that the same identity is being used by two separate remote hosts, like Alice's laptop and some computer from some evil genius hacker, which may mean that that key has been compromised. So we can click on that this WireGuard identity and do some more investigation. But before we do that, let's go back to the dashboard one more time and look at this endpoint IP addresses changes table. Now, this table will display an entry for each time that the apparent IP address of one of these peers that is connected to one of our monitored hosts has changed. So if we take a look at some of these entries, like this entry showing the connection between Alice's laptop and the document store, we can see here that the IP address for this connection has appeared to flip back and forth between one IP address in Colorado, which is the office of our company, or one of the office locations of our company, to another IP address in Russia. Now, that seems a little bit suspicious for our US-based, this US-based company. So what we can do is drill into each of these IP addresses to get a little more information about where they are and what they've been doing. So on this page for this IP address, we can see that the network to which this IP address belongs is this Verizon Business Network, and its geographic location is in Colorado in the Denver metropolitan area. We can see the various hosts that this IP address has accessed and the peers that have used this IP address, and we can go back historically and look at the past 90 days of activity from this IP address and see that it's quite common for this IP address to have access to a variety of hosts in our WireGuard network and have been used by a number of remote peers to access those hosts. So that all seems fairly legit. Let's go back to the dashboard and look at that other IP address, the other IP address from Russia. Now, the network it belongs to appears to be some Russian telecom. Its geographic location is Moscow, and that seems pretty suspicious for a US-based company to be accessed from a Russian IP address. And we see historically that this is the only time that this IP address has accessed any of our WireGuard hosts. So that too seems awfully suspicious. And that brings me into the second part of what I want to show you, that Pro Custodibus will automatically send you notifications alerting you of exactly this kind of suspicious activity that we just saw here. So if you set up an email address in Pro Custodibus configured to receive these security alerts, Pro Custodibus will automatically use that email address to email you these alerts. But you can also go to the alerts page in Pro Custodibus to see the list of alerts that Pro Custodibus has already generated. So let's look at a few of these alerts. The first example here. Now, if Pro Custodibus detects access to any of your monitored hosts from an IP address located in a country that's never accessed any of these hosts before, it will generate an alert like this. In this case, my organization hasn't used any IP addresses in Russia for at least the past 45 days, and yet we have this access from this IP address in Russia. So that's why Pro Custodibus automatically generated this alert and sent us an email notification of it. Now, I can also configure a safe list of IP address blocks in Pro Custodibus of known IP addresses that I do expect activity from. And so if Pro Custodibus then will observe any activity from an IP address not in any one of those blocks, we'll also get an alert from Pro Custodibus for that. So this endpoint IP suspicious alert is an example of that, where we've configured our example organization with a safe list of 3 good IP blocks. One is this Denver office IP address that you recognize from before. The second is the autonomous system number of our Minnesota office, and the third is another autonomous system number from which we expect activity to come from. Now, when Pro Custodibus sees access from an IP address not in one of these blocks, for example, this address from New Jersey, Pro Custodibus will automatically generate an alert and send us an email about this suspicious activity. Now, another strong indicator of suspicious activity that probably indicates key compromise is this alert here. This alert is generated when Pro Custodibus detects the suspicious behavior that we noticed earlier when the WireGuard identity used by Alice's laptop appeared to flip back and forth between an IP address in Colorado and an IP address in Russia. So Pro Custodibus detected this behavior and generated this alert to notify us about it. And now there are two other suspicious usage patterns that I want to highlight here that Pro Custodibus can detect for us. First here is when you have a private key that is configured to be used as part of your WireGuard network but hasn't been used before. On the first use of that key, Pro Custodibus will send you an alert to notify you that that key has been used for the first time, or at least the first time in the past 45 days. So we see this WireGuard identity for Claire's workstation has been used for the first time today. Now we can drill into this WireGuard identity and check it out. We can see that this is the first time in the past 90 days that this identity has been used, and if this is Claire's first day at the company, this would be something we expect. But if Claire is a former employee and suddenly we see activity from her old WireGuard key, well, that's fairly suspicious and can indicate that her key has been compromised. And so now the last alert I want to show you is when a private key is used not for the first time ever, but for the first time to connect to a particular host. In this case, we have the private key for Bob's workstation being used to access this host, the Orders app, for the first time. Now, if we look at the history of usage for this WireGuard key, we can see over the past 90 days that it's been used to access a variety of other hosts on our network here. And if we do expect Bob to occasionally access the Orders app, then this access is probably okay. But if he has no need to access this Orders app host, then it may indicate that his key has fallen into the wrong hands and is being used by some malicious third party to access this Orders app. So, there you have it. These are the various ways that you can use Pro Custodibus both manually or automatically to monitor for WireGuard key compromise.